What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another installment of Notes from the Editors, a comic adjacent show where we go over some of the historical and news related topics of everything comic book related that we kind of love in this industry. I'm Eric from 9 Panel Grid, and I'm joined as always with Stu from Dr. Doom's fan club. Stu, how's today treating you, man?
It's good, man. Well, it's bittersweet, right? Fall is, kind of in there. We got some cool weather, at least in my neck of the woods, going on, which feels wonderful. I can't.
I was gonna say you sounded sad talking about that, and I'm like,
built for the cold. Well, the flip side of that coin, as you both know, we're both Bears fans, and so here we are at the end of the week one. Yeah.
We're gonna do that. We're gonna talk about this.
We might as well just get it out of the way. We got a bleak outlook on life, but regardless, man, it's good to have football back. It's good to have the fall in front of us. And tonight's topic could be no better, in my opinion, bro. Just a incredible year. A revolutionary year, one that I think one creator in particular really made his own. But yeah, I'm so happy to be here. How are you doing, bro? How's your week been so far?
I'm doing fine for a Bears fan. I think that tonight's episode is a very appropriate in tone and in, I don't know, just vibes in general. Because you know what? Before yesterday, man, joy was skyrocketing, man. I had childlike wonder just like coursing through my veins, and I was ready. I was just ready for the football season to kick off. And then the reality of being a Bears fan kicked in, and I feel a little bit wiser. I feel more mature. I feel the weight of the world kind of on my shoulders here, and that kind of like talks about a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight with the year that is 1986, the maturation, if you will, of comics. Right? Yeah. We all had to grow
rite
up.
of passage.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. You have to have, the weight of the world on your shoulders to be able to, live through that, which happens in this year of comics here. And that's exactly what it's like to be a Bears fan. Did I pivot well enough? Did that work out?
That works for me. Yeah, that works for me.
It's going to have to work. Yeah. Yes. Silly Bears. Before we start diving into the conversation proper, we got a lot of wonderful people hanging with us already here. So let's go ahead and shout them out. Starting off with Bob here, who was actually tailgating, man. Appreciate you, Bob. Always great seeing you.
Yeah, I was alive, but not buying comics in 86. Sorry.
Yeah, alive. I knew of comic books, but yeah, no, not buying them off the racks yet. I still had about 3 years before I was starting to do that proper.
Same.
There we go. Near zero. Alive and reading comics in 1986. Heck yeah, dude. Can't wait to hear your opinions, man, for all the books that we're going to be mentioning. Let's see here. Yeah, we got him saying great topic. Looking forward to see what you guys cover, man. Equally looking forward to see what you drop in the chat, man. I'm sure you guys are going to be dropping knowledge here. We got Bob saying the Punisher 5-issue limited series was as important as a reader at the time than Dark Knight or Watchmen. Mutant Massacre was high on my pull list. I circled back and read Mutant Massacre. We'll get into that a little bit here too, for sure.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
We got Bob shouting out Batman number 400 as
Killer
well.
Sienkiewicz cover, bro. Yeah, I think I threw that up on some show, not that recently. I just picked that one up. I love that one. Great issue.
Yeah, the build up to year one. Yeah. We got Christina Payne hanging with us, moderator extraordinaire. Christina, nice seeing you. We got Bob shouting out the book that came in like every single grocery store, Pack-O Comics in the plastic bags here. Freaking Nom, dude. Everyone, like, it's a rite of passage. If you don't have at least one issue of Nom in your collection,
Nom in the collection, yeah,
you gotta grab it. You gotta get it. Let's see. We got Rooster Blue hanging with us, man. Nice seeing you, buddy.
Oh yeah, good to see you, man.
We got Simpleton Paradox from Strange Days. Clue me in. Is that over my head?
No, he's talking about Rooster's comment here. I was waiting around.
Oh, here we go.
Which looks like it was a real gem. I don't know. I don't know that.
They're already starting to, drop the knowledge here, man. They're telling us everything that we need to know.
Oh yeah.
We got Rooster. I was 3 years away from being conceived. Okay. It's okay, man. It's okay because history lessons are important, especially with the quality comics that we get coming out in this year that we'll be discussing. But in order to get to 1986, we kind of have to go back in the Wayback Machine, because knowing the impact that happened in 1986, you kind of need to know where we were at and what the landscape of comics were prior to that year. So, Stu, just like for my own knowledge, right? Like, how far back do you go in your reading of comic books, and like where? Let me see if I can phrase this right. Where does your enjoyment level start to dip, if at all, going backwards in time?
Definitely, like, I think with my heaviest period, I don't have a whole lot of a ton of comics before like the early 80s. I think the early 80s is really like when you're talking about Claremont, you're talking about John Byrne on Fantastic Four, you
Hmm.
know, Frank Miller stuff. Um, the Jim Shooter days, that's really where it starts for me. I think when, as far as like, that's retro, going back, because 1980s, I was born in 82, so 86 I'm 4. I had to go back and get educated. But to me, it's been hard to connect to a lot of the comics of the 70s. um I can, the earlier stuff when we're talking about laying the foundations with like Kirby and Lee is a whole different ball game. But like once we get past that and into that middle area before we kind of get to Shooter getting crowned, and really all these incredible creators on both sides of the ball, or both sides of the big two rather, taking over. Yeah, the 70s is kind of tough for me. So like, I was looking at it today, pulling the comics from 86, and yeah, it's not a, after 80, it's not a ton of my collection. There's definitely some, but it's nothing like, in the 80s. So I would say like the Shooter era and on, like John Byrne's Fantastic Four, I have nearly the entire run. Claremont I have a ton of. And then especially middle, later part of the decade. But yeah, Uncle Frank obviously, and all that good stuff. How about you?
Very much the same. I feel like I can't go prior to 1975 basically too far without a huge dip in
Yeah.
my ability to like sit there and enjoy it outside of nostalgia factors, because like going back and reading some classic comics in comparison to today's, totally different beasts, like all throughout, right? Like it's just a totally almost different medium, if you will. But the story structure and the level, the like the readership, like what they were writing towards, was obviously just a very very different thing altogether. So when you go back and read those, it to me personally, it doesn't hold a candle, right? But there's some shining points in there for sure, and I think that you listed a lot of them. So in going back and reading through some of the stuff that came out, I said 1980, or I'm sorry, 1975 specifically, because I wanted to give us a decade build up before the
Mhm.
boom hits. Some interesting things happened though, and like we're gonna kick things off in 1975 here. Giant Size X-Men #1 comes out. So you had mentioned Claremont's X-Men run, which I'm obviously like that was my through line into comic books, basically, like was X-Men, specifically Claremont's run on it. This, while not Claremont driven, was the jumping on point for Claremont to really take the mutants and build them up into the thing that they are now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Such an
so
incredible issue, dude. Storm's introduction in that book is one of my favorite comic book passages of all time. It's just pure poetry. The way it's written and drawn, it's incredible.
all of them, just like the idea of what they did, building that team up and making it more international based and really making it just obviously much more diverse than the team that
Yeah.
we had gotten from the school originally. Like such a great idea and such a forward thinking kind of approach for that. Still very super heroic, superhero driven kind of stuff though. Same thing. We have the first appearance of Moon Knight in Werewolf by Night #32. We have Iron Fist making his
Mm,
first official, kind of solo series, ongoing series that kicks off. We get Howard the Duck making his first appearance in his own solo title as well. 1976, then we also get X-Men 101, right? The Phoenix Saga, the death of Jean Grey. Coming when they're coming back from space and crash landing in Jamaica Bay. We get the introduction of the Eternals, which is crazy. For some reason in my head, and it's probably just because of the Jack Kirby artwork. I always assumed that that happened much earlier in time. I thought that was like an early 70s thing, much more than a mid to late 70s kind of kickoff. But crazy things are popping off here. Let's see here. Star Wars issue number 1 from Marvel Comics kicks off in 1977. We have, let's see here, the introduction of the character of Star-Lord in Marvel Previews number 11. Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers, when she had the moniker, gets her own solo series. So what we're seeing throughout the mid to late 70s is very much more of the status quo. Superheroes being written for, you know, a child audience, right? Still telling those superheroic stories and, you know, the run-of-the-mill, I don't want to say Scooby-Doo kind of villain-esque type of things, but a lot of that. We start to see tidbits of the maturation of that, and I think that Claremont does a good part, or plays a role in that, especially with the death of Jean Grey and kind of making something that is, I don't know, formative, right? I can't think of another death in comic books, and this is just off the top of my head here, that happens that is as impactful in, at least in Marvel Comics. Maybe Gwen Stacy. I think maybe Gwen Stacy is the last that happens prior to that really has, like, I don't know, like changes the gravity of that comic book for a good long time. But we get a lot of things here, but we start to see tidbits. We start to see things, particularly in 1979 with the introduction of a storyline in Iron Man called Demon in a Bottle. Very short arc, you know, people like, obviously it's well renowned and it's, you know, like everyone really knows Demon in a Bottle and Tony Stark's struggles. But that kicks off here at the tail end of the 70s into the 80s, where we start to see a little bit of the maturation of comics. And it's kind of kicks off with a couple names that you're going to hear a lot tonight, because I feel like they are the two people that really are responsible for a lot of the changes in comics. So coming up into the early 80s, we see two things happen that kind of kick the doors in for big, bold changes to happen. One, Alan Moore taking on the title of Swamp Thing, right? The other thing, Frank Miller
on Daredevil,
taking over Daredevil proper.
Yes, sir.
The early 80s, this was a testing ground. Both of these books were not highly touted. They were not top tier books. They were not like bestsellers or anything like that. But the approach that was taken on them, the level of experimentation that was allowed, and some of the things that, quite frankly, because they were low sellers, they were able to get away with, I think really kind of had shown that there is a different level of readership in comics that could be pushed forward, or could be, you know, sold towards and written towards, that could really change what we were going to be delivered, honestly, from here on out. So before we dive too much further, though, is there any like pre-1986 comics that really stand out to you outside of Swamp Thing and Daredevil that I just mentioned? Is there any other like maybe build-up books that you're like, ooh, you know, I feel like this was influential in a way that pushed things forward?
Man, I gotta get my timelines right. But Burn on FF for sure before you know what's gonna happen in 86. But yeah, that was a huge one for me. Just like the level of depth and complexity he was able to bring to these characters who had been around for so long, but also, like, you know, really read a love letter to Lee and Kirby in the process, was fantastic, man. And some of like the best Doom stories of all time, the best Galactus stories of all time. He had just really had a fundamental knowledge of that universe and what works and what didn't. And I thought his approach to that was so like childlike and full of just wonder and joy. There was just so much love for that family and, you know, all those characters in that writing. So that one is always near and dear to my heart. When did Sienkiewicz on New Mutants start?
That would have been, so in 1986.
I feel like that's later.
Yeah, we start to see the tail end of New Mutants, and I think that his time on the book had already ended. Bear with me one second.
But Moore definitely doing some great work on some like little Superman stories in there. I've done a Surrounded by Short Boxes episode on DC Comics Presents where he does Superman, heading south to die, basically getting exposed to this mushroom from Krypton on a meteorite, and it having terminal effects on him, and him going down south to die without telling anybody, and Swamp Thing discovering him after he wrecks his car doing so, and it's just a brilliant little tale. But I think he did that, and Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, which is kind of like the.
I had that written down too. Yeah.
Okay, hell yeah, dude. Is that 85?
Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, I believe, was 1986 for the actual.
Okay,
release.
my bad. Yeah. But at the time, he's really got the juice going from Swamp Thing, and he's getting some brilliant looks at some some timeless Superman tales. But yeah, man, I would say, like, I don't know. Sorry for rambling, but Burns FF.
Oh, keep it coming.
Burns FF is definitely the one, and then I don't know, just everything, all of Frank Miller's energy pre 86 was just so killer.
Well,
and Daredevil to Ronin to everything he had in the pot.
Yeah, and I have to circle back around here. Bob was all up in my head, man. He knew exactly what my answer was going to be. Frank Miller's Ronin, which was delivered 1983, I believe, 1983, 1984. Kind of feel like it plays in like the latter half, early half of the next year. And really, when you look at it, that's one of the earliest examples of what will eventually become indie comics, because while it was released from DC, it was completely creator owned. Frank Miller had control over the project, and it had no connection whatsoever to DC proper. I feel like what Frank Miller was able to do there and the freedom that they gave him at DC Comics really was a jumping off point to further explore what you could do with characters that were in continuity, and more importantly, what later becomes independent comics proper. Like, like we talk about the big two or the big three nowadays, or even before that with Image Comics. I feel like this is the maturation point for that. So yeah, so Miller's Ronin kind of really stands out to me as something unique, bold, and something that was eye-opening for the audiences at that time, right before, again, like the doors get like completely torn off the hinges and we get new comics, basically.
Yeah, and I feel like it really solidified that DC relationship early on for him. Especially coming off Daredevil, because I don't know, man. I just think, especially following Denny. Did he follow Denny? When did Denny transition from Marvel to DC? Go ahead. Okay, go ahead. No, I'm asking you.
Oh, it was right after. So basically, in between Frank Miller's runs on Daredevil, Denny O'Neil had nobody wanted to touch that book after Frank Miller had this no-name character go toe-to-toe with the top-selling X-Men title. So Denny O'Neil stands in and says, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I was the one that kind of pulled Frank Miller up and like showed him the ropes. So let me go ahead and, throw myself on the sword, if you will, and like not let anyone else have to like put themselves out there and compete with what the book was. By the way, Denny O'Neil's Daredevil run, largely unsung. Like, people don't talk about it, and it's really, I mean, it's Denny O'Neil, right? So like, I shouldn't have to talk up the name too much. It's really good. But after his run of Daredevil is done, then he slides right on over to DC in an editorial role, starts doing work with Batman, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and I remember Frank talking about, I think, the early seeds of a conversation about year one and how they kind of just hash it out like this walk around a lake. I don't know. It's just dope. I just love how the relationship between those two dudes just fostered so much amazing comic books.
And there's another funny thing that really happens during this time too, that this individual, I feel like, doesn't get enough credit, or maybe it's just a different level of credit. But at the time, DC was really pushing a lot of what's going to be coming down the pipeline, right? And I talked about Ronin. Well, the person responsible over DC at that time was Dick Giordano, right? Dick Giordano was spearheading DC at the time that these books start getting announced and published, right? He's pulling in the talent that's putting these books out. He's giving them the freedom, which ends up kind of being the kiss and the curse on a lot of this stuff. But really, he's the editor that spearheads all this kind of stuff, including putting Karen Berger in the role that she eventually gets, being the editor-in-chief over the Vertigo imprint as well. But we talk about Jim Shooter a lot, and I feel like Jim Shooter's name is really put out in the forefront in a big bad way, and it's deservedly so. But I feel like Dick Giordano is like he's like the flip side of that same coin, where Jim Shooter was very structured, very organized, and he had a method to the way that he wanted to run the shop over at Marvel. Dick Giordano was a little bit looser, a little bit more on the creator side, and said, like, you guys roll with it. You guys tell me a good story, right? Like, and do it to the best of your own abilities. A lot of hands off in that, though. So I just wanted to give, Dick Giordano a little bit of credit for the things that happen on that side as well. I feel like basically when things shift, there almost could have been like a flip-flopping of the editorial teams. Like, I feel like Marvel maybe needed to loosen their grips on the industry and DC needed to tighten down. If you would have just taken both those editors and swapped them, it almost might have been a perfect recipe to kind of keep that trajectory going. But anyway, I digress on that. Let me get over to the chat because I know that there's a lot more things that they've been popping off with here. Simpleton. Okay. Dude, again, you're teaching me something. I'm a big fan of Peter Milligan. This one totally flew right by me. I had no idea. So Eclipse Comics was Strange Days. So you best be assured here that is going on my to-do list to check that out and read
From
it.
Blonde Bags to Peter Milligan, we're all about growth and progress here at Ink and Insights, guys.
Yes, exactly. We have to become better versions of ourselves each and every day. That's what it's all about. So Simpleton, I'm sorry. I know I let you down, but thank you for making me that better person.
Oh yeah.
We got Pete hanging with us here saying, what up?
Pete, what up,
Pete?
bro?
Nice seeing you, man.
Oh yeah.
Let's see here. Rooster Blue saying, never heard of it before, but the channel Comics Will Rot Your Brain did a video on it. Okay, I'll check that out.
Another day, another great YouTube channel about comic books. Am I right? I mean, how it's just like an endless well, dude.
It can be, yeah. You type in comics on YouTube, you're going to get a plethora of hopefully the best stuff on YouTube. Let's see here. We got Omega Slice hanging with us here saying Station back at you, man. Nice seeing you.
What up, Omega? Oh yeah.
Let's see here. Playing catch up. Omega saying, I think Batman is the only thing I have from 1986 and beyond. Sandman is the second oldest thing I have, and I think that's more like 1989. Yes, that's definitely in the later 1980s. You're still fantastic work, though. Still awesome stuff. You wouldn't have Sandman without what happens basically in 1986. Look at this. We got Sleepy Reader hanging with us today, man. More.
Amen, brother.
Nice seeing you, Sleepy. Let's see. We got Gore Vidal hanging with us. Books like Mage and Grendel and other independent titles were ahead of the game when it comes to maturation comics. DC and Marvel were playing catch up with notable exceptions. Dude, yes. And we're going to talk about that definitely for sure. We got Near Zero saying O'Neill started the question in 1986. I don't know the year that he started doing the question here. Let's do some fact checking for you here real quick.
Just like a double entendre with the question.
We're looking for an answer to the question. 1986, yes. There we go. So yet another one. All right. A lot of good recommendations and call outs being shown in the chat here. Let's go ahead and dive into some of the books that we wanted to highlight from 1986, man. Stu, I've been rambling on a lot. I'm going to let you take the lead on this one, man. Shout out a book here that from 1986 that changed the game.
Man.
Only right answers.
I'm gonna fill in your picks, bro.
Okay.
This one's just so gorgeous. A team we saw more than once in '86. And a creator coming back to a character that he had previous success on and really doing something extraordinary, dude. Miller and
Yes.
Mazzucchelli on Daredevil Born Again. Absolutely incredible. I think did things in comic books which still haven't been replicated. Reach heights that we still haven't really got back to yet. I think some of the things Mazzucchelli did, particularly in here with his framing and his compositions and his approach to the page, are just absolutely extraordinary. The the first half of the story is just I think the essence of the character and really deconstructing him in a fascinating and brutal manner. And when you talk about adult themes and books that really push the envelope, I mean, he just really doubled down on everything he had already established in his previous run here. And then, dude, we've talked about it before in our breakdown of the book, on your channel. The Give me a red. The part with Nuke is just fucking bananas. I love the second, like just the absolute batshit insanity of the second half of it, man. And also, his efforts to save that character's life and just, I don't know. It's just it's a brilliant, return to form for Miller to come back to a character and do something like this after what he had already accomplished is extraordinary. But Mazzucchelli, I mean, it's just really every single panel, every single line is something that you could spend hours with, and it's just drenched in beauty, man. It's incredible that we got this team up not once but twice, with this within this year, and we got these comic books that will live forever. But I don't know. You can say it a whole lot better than I can, brother. What does Born Again mean to you?
It's the perfect superhero story. I mean, that's truly what it is to me. I feel like it's the distillation of the purest form of not only this character but maybe even superheroics in general. It is so clean and so concise. We're only talking, if I'm not mistaken, 8 issues, right? And
Yeah, it's
let's be
like what
honest.
226 to 234 or something like that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you're right there. And the Nuke part of the story, it's kind of lumped in. It's not Born Again though. It's really almost the beginning of a second part. It's him getting able, or like kind of lining himself up to take down the Kingpin, but the fall and rise of Matt Murdock had essentially already been done at that
Mhm.
point. I don't know how a writer artist team is able to accomplish as much as this team does in as few issues. It's just mind-boggling. This is the kind of stuff that, like, there are so many arcs that go on for like the better parts of years that can't accomplish what they can do in the matter of, like, let's just say four to 6 issues here outside of the nuke portion. It is beautiful because you get all of the turmoil and the struggles of Karen Page and her trek back to the
Yeah.
United States, back to New York
Lord
City,
have
right?
mercy.
Yeah,
The
you get
beginning, dude, remember like Kingpin on the boat and that great Hawaiian shirt shot all drenched in red from
oh my god,
Mazzucchelli?
the reds and purples, the coloring is great. Yes, it's so good. Christy Shield, if I'm not mistaken here. Shout out to Christy
Shout out
Shield.
to Christy Shield. Hell yeah.
Yeah, but we have Karen Page, right? We got all of the things that are happening with Foggy Nelson and Matt Murdock's ex-girlfriend, right? Like driving a wedge between them. We get Ben Urich going through
Dude.
arguably the second most tumultuous
The
storyline in.
killer nurse, like the killer nurse Ratchet character. Holy
Yes.
shit.
And I know I said this when we did our breakdown of the video. In my head, I still hear the mother from Goonies, right? The criminal organization.
Great
Like, she is
call.
still the freaking nurse
Great
character.
call. I think that or who is it? Mrs. Trunchbull from Matilda. I think either one could like definitely serve a role there. Dude,
Yeah.
the scene where she gets killed in the cell when they're in there for questioning with Ben Urich and homegirls taking the photos and just like the way that whole sequence plays out. Ben Urich kind of succumbing to the violence and beating that dude basically unconscious or half to death with the gun butt while she's taking pictures. Man, it doesn't get any better than that.
No, no. And we haven't even talked about Matt Murdock's his journey that he takes through this story, told through a very religious, very biblical lens, almost putting him in the Jesus Christ, persona, as
Yes.
he is killed, right? The Daredevil persona is killed, only for him to then rise up again as a more pure, more perfect version of the person that he is supposed to be, both as Matt Murdock and Daredevil himself. The things that Mazzucchelli can do in this series too, again, like, we're talking about comic books, which it's just so crazy, but we can talk about them in an elevated sense because of things like this. When we talk about those title pages that Mazzucchelli conveys, showing the level of comfort that Matt has, down to like the
overhead shots.
Yeah, the most downtrodden, when he is sleeping in the streets, curled up, like just trying his best to survive, to then the triumphant poses that Daredevil, like when he comes back finally, when he saves Karen Page, when he like is able to actually take on Nuke, save Hell's Kitchen, and bring Wilson Fisk to at least some form of justice, albeit not the greatest one, not the one he was looking for, but the one that he needed in that moment. Mazzucchelli does things that are just special in here. I mean, and you could pour over this book day in and day out. You picked the greatest book ever. You picked the greatest story.
I mean, and we just need to footnote it with this. This is one of 4 white hot scorchers that Uncle Frank drops in 1986. I mean, you talk about a creative run and somebody really in that zone where everything they touch he's on this King Midas shit. Everything he touches is gold in the best way, and it's revolutionary, man. It's something special to behold.
Yes. Well, let's stay on that train then, because I will shout out another thing that is it's in the same vein, very, very close, but it is something different, but something that you had mentioned previously as well. Elektra Assassin.
Let's do it, baby.
Okay. We have to understand how this is even able to happen, right? It makes no sense. There is no way that any writer is able to put out the caliber of story that is Born Again and Elektra Assassin, 2 totally different beasts, equally as important to the industry of comics here. But maybe even more so than Frank Miller on this one is the artist on here, which you had mentioned previously from books like New Mutants here. We're talking Bill Sienkiewicz. And guys, like, I mean, if you haven't seen this book, I'm gonna showcase a single page here. Can you solo me for me real quick?
Yeah, got you, bro.
Yeah. I mean, and this is not even the best example of a page here, but like Bill Sienkiewicz doing things in here with the narrative that Frank Miller is portraying here, with the journey that is Elektra Natchios here, and a prequel story because she was historically killed off in the Daredevil proper run, Frank Miller's first foray with the character. This is a prequel story that has a lot to tell and has a lot to do, and it is very, very open to interpretation. We've talked about it before. We're both big Hunter S. Thompson fans here. This is the most gonzo story that I feel like I've read from a big 2 publisher. Granted, I believe that this was an epic book when it was coming out in floppies. Had to have been, considering the nature of what they do in this book and the mother's milk, if you will, that really corrupts everyone that's involved with it. This is such a wild increase. Go ahead. What's up?
I was just gonna say, milk of the beast, baby.
Oh my god, it's insane. It's insanity. But really, it's Bill Sienkiewicz's artwork that, again, we talked about the fact that Mazzucchelli was pushing the art form forward with his reference material and the things that he was conveying. This is a piece of artwork. This is like museum quality pieces of art on every single page of this comic book. It is stunning. And even if the story is not as linear and as narratively concise as some other comic books are, it's challenging. And comics should be challenging. And they should make you question what you're reading. And they should make you go back and try to figure out, did I understand the meaning behind that? Is there more to take from this? These are the kind of stories that do that kind of thing. So Frank Miller, again, the same exact year. He's doing a lot of these things simultaneously. It's insane.
Yeah, and him and Sienkiewicz were studio mates, right? At the time, they shared a studio together. I'm almost positive they did.
Yeah,
it was 4 cats. I want to say Simonson was in there too. Like it was the most ridiculous murderers row of like creators, and they all shared a studio at some point in time. Yeah, dude, it's a glorious fever trip in the best way. I love Gore and Sleepy comparing it to Ralph Steadman and Bob. Yeah, absolutely. I think all the way. But yeah, it's, to me, the craziness and, like you said, the non-linear kind of pattern to the storytelling is broken up by these just gorgeous, like pinup worthy illustrations of Elektra. You know what I mean? We'll just get her in some magnificent pose, whether it be in action or resting, that just makes any type of like frustration you had with trying to understand what's going on just kind of dissipate. And I think when you look at a book like we just talked about, like Born Again, where there's a whole lot going on within the structured storytelling, and there's a whole lot of symbolism and stuff like that. There's a whole lot of symbolism and things like that here, but it's much more of a bizarre. You don't really need to understand it and grasp everything and pull it down to earth with you in the same way to really appreciate it. You know what I mean? I think it's more like an abstract work of art in that way. And shout out to Epic Comics, right? Because this is an epic publication for really being Marvel's kind of vertigo and taking chances on books like this. But yeah, it's insane, man. This one, I think, it is also like one of the weirder ones for Frank at the time. This is like one of the more radical things he's like. Not that Sin City wasn't weird and radical, but I think it was much more of a cohesive story. You could still kind of follow where it was going. This is just hazy and like in the best way. And I love the way that he writes to Sienkiewicz's strengths in that way.
Well, and I think that there had to have been so much of a collaborative effort in this, because I just don't know how Sienkiewicz could get ahead of the game with the quality of artwork that he was outputting without it being somewhat Marvel method, where Frank had to have been like, here's what we need, right? Here's what this page needs to be. Don't worry, I'll take care of the rest, right? And it had to be portions of that throughout it. But regardless, it is just like, it is the silliest, craziest book. Silly, mature silly, not silly. It's wacky and wild. And I think that it delivers on ideas that Frank is honestly like able to further explore later on in his career with books like Hard Boiled and books, maybe even more importantly, like the Martha Washington series that he puts out with Dark Horse, right? He gets to really start to play with that political corruption idea and really like the nature of societal hierarchies and things like that, and fighting back against those kind of powers that be. So I think this is really the beginnings of those kind of ideas starting to ruminate in his head, and him being able to kind of push those ideas forward.
Yeah, it's awesome just to see his transition from Sienkiewicz, I'm talking about, from Moon Knight into really kind of like getting into his real artistic rhythm, finding out who he is and like what he wants to do on the page. And like just this whole decade of the 80s, like from New Mutants on, watching him discover his style, start to play with mixed media. Like cats are talking about Love and War in the chat. Like I just love how he used to like make those Kingpin vests in that, like with like cutting out
the
like
fabric and like
my god, dude. And then like I think one of the first New Mutant posters, like he had circuit boards from Radio Shack on. It's just like I love, in synchronization with pushing the art form as a writer. I love that Miller's teaming up with artists like this who are like Mazzucchelli and Sienkiewicz, who are willing to do the same on the page. So
yeah, like I'm looking at the back cover. This is like the old hardcover, the graffiti design published version of it, and this is like, it's not it's not just a picture, but like on the back of this, you can see like there's like cigarette butts that are epoxied to a canvas with circuitry going through here with lights that are lit, like that are going to be lit up here with the face and stuff. It's like an installment piece, even more so than just a, you know, a piece of artwork, right? Or like just a picture on a piece of paper. It's crazy here. But let's see what the chat is saying about all of our picks here so far. We got Gore saying, yeah, Matt Murdock like a Christ figure. The nun is Mary, and Paige is Magdalene. Matt forgives unconditional love. Matt's helping her detox is like Christ exorcising the demons of Magdalene. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like the religious metaphors and, you know, everything that he plays with here. That's not stuff that you see maybe as easily done in comics previous, because again, like even the buildup that we were referring to, there's big things that happen in comics, but they are superheroic things. Like they're superhero driven type of things that are happening here, not necessarily things that are saying, oh, this is for a different audience, this is for a different readership. We got Eddie saying, have y'all read Jim Rugg's 1986 zine? It is dope. Are you talking about,
about the zine? Oh, let's go.
You talking about the zine that inspired us wanting to talk about this on this episode, Eddie? Is that what you're talking about? Yes, we have this. Of course. This was essential perusing, I guess I would have to say. It's not reading, because it's a lot of the advertisements and a lot of the articles that came out in 1986 about all things comics. But yes, I absolutely had to pick this up first and foremost, but then this was a large inspiration for wanting to talk about this tonight. So yeah, dude, you already know. We got Gore saying, Electro Assassin is my favorite Miller and Bill S. work. I had a poster in my dorm. Dude, I'm jealous of you. I was staring down some posters on eBay. They're not in the greatest condition, and they're a little bit too pricey for me to pull the trigger on it, but I've taken it under consideration, man.
I love the old comic book posters, man. I look at them all the time. Like Uncle Frank's got some great ones out there too.
I heard that you're a big comic book artwork poster fan.
Just a little bit.
I'm just saying. I've heard some people maybe call that kind of thing out.
Maybe.
Let's see here. We got Bob saying Bill S. owes a debt to Ralph Steadman. You know, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I guess Ralph Steadman's artwork must have come first, right? Because his work with Hunter S. Thompson was the mid 70s, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I think that had to have been a very large inspiration on him for sure. Got Gore saying Elektra is a force of nature. She barely utters a word. She's like a Greek god. Yes, absolutely. And I'm sorry, like even. I'm sorry, Uncle Frank, but when I close my eyes and I think of Elektra, I think of Sienkiewicz Elektra. That is what pops in my head, man.
God, she's gorgeous, man.
The way that, but Gore's right, like a force of nature, like gorgeous, but like extraordinarily lethal, like extraordinarily. She's jarring as a character.
Sienkiewicz's line work is much more sexy than Uncle Frank's. Especially like some of them facial close-ups in the Daredevil run. It's like, I don't know, man.
Well, I mean, Frank has a different artistic quality. I'll say that much. How about that? Plus, that's a lot of Klaus. That's a lot of Klaus.
Yeah, but I definitely feel you in regards to like the Electra you prefer there. Yeah, it's Sienkiewicz just leans more in that Psylocke Jim Lee type.
Yeah. I get you.
Same.
Let's see here. We got Gore also saying, my peers didn't like it. The comic baffled them. It was too strange for them. To this day, it doesn't get the readership it deserves. I think it's a masterpiece. Okay, if I'm being completely honest, it's taken me so many attempts because my Daredevil fandom came to me in my, we'll say, early teens at first, and I just wanted to devour everything. So I read. Let me take that back. I tried to read Elektra Assassin. I accomplished it. I didn't understand a damn thing that I had actually like read and seen on the page. So I could not comprehend what I was getting myself into. But revisiting it and coming back to it and getting more from it each and every time that I've read it is where that, you know, whatever, that the comprehension continues. Like I find new things when I read these kind of books every single time. I pull something different away. That's kind of the special part
Absolutely.
about these things.
Yep.
All right. We got Rooster Blue. We still talking Electro Assassin? Yes, we are, but we're getting ready to dive into our next book here. Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing here. Of course, and mine is signed by both creators. I'm assuming yours is as well. I mean, I can't not show it off here. Yes, of course. Signed Uncle Frank and Billy S. 315 out of 2000 here. So, yes, of course. I had to get, when I saw that signed copy, I had to get that.
Oh, yeah. Gore, what number you got, bro?
Yeah, let us know the number here. Our friend Nick Comic Culture here, he got the artist proof copy, and I'm not salty about that at all.
Dude, Nick saw what he did and then had to go out and just be super extra with it, and we're still not okay with it. Just want that on record. So
these comic book influencers on YouTube, they're a problem. Is all I'm saying. They're a big problem.
You try to put a guy onto a book, and then he's like, "Hey, do you have the super artist proof? Because that's what I got coming in the mail." Jerk.
Oh man. All right, Stu, what is your next pick?
All right. Man.
Yeah, I know.
It's, I guess, let's stay on the Miller train.
Why?
And I'm gonna go to the end of the year, right? When I think is when this one started. Man, I got my paper back here. Batman Year One. With Matt.
That's right.
Quite possibly the greatest Batman story ever told. A really redefining of his origin and really establishing the modern day mythos of the character. And again, Mazzucchelli. So many incredible moments in here, though. I love the bat crashing through the window. I think this is my favorite bat crashing through the window moment. And this one, I think the way that Mazzucchelli pulls it off is incredible. I love Jim Gordon's arc in here with the corrupt GCPD and the way he finds his way, and eventually teams up with Batman. Batman declaring war on the 1%. Batman calling in the bats. The covers, the ridiculous artist edition book that's over in my corner that's 20 feet tall that I just drool over from time to time. But this one is damn near perfect for me, folks, and it just doesn't get any better. And I think we thought we had it all when we got born again, but this is just so much better to me. I think this is some perfect comic booking, and yeah, again, like I said with Daredevil, man, like I'm going through it now, and like all these little, you know, tiny panels of Mazzucchelli doing facial expressions, like his Catwoman is just fantastic. The way he does these mobsters is fantastic. The way he plays with shadows is just incredible. So, and his line work is just forever clean, forever perfect. It looks so effortless and so natural, and it's just something automatically timeless and eternally beautiful about it to me. I just look at it all day long. I never get tired of it, and it's. I look at work like this and Born Again, and I'm just like, man, it sucks that we got so little from this dude, but at the same time, it just makes me appreciate it all the more. And Batman is to me like one of my all-time favorites. I think any boy who grew up as a fan of comic books loves Batman, and this is like the Batman we know. This is like the foundation, and really redefine the character after Crisis on Infinite Earth. So this is kind of how the dust settled moving forward, and it's the Batman we know today, and it's just one of the best comic books of all time. So like I said, and I just loved how this whole came to be through Frank's relationship with Denny, and the decision to end up to putting in a continuity, breaking it up into 4 issues was wild at the time. I think they could have gone indie with this or done prestige formats and still work, but yeah, man, this one's special. This one's special. Dark Knight Returns, of course, is the big boy, but this one is I think more polished, more cohesive, and just a better piece of work. I think Dark Knight Returns is a brash artistic statement that has some flaws with it, but I think this is like fully realized and really has very few holes for me to poke in it. So I don't know, man. Year one, what can you say about year one that hasn't been said
Well,
already? And
it's yeah.
one more thing. I just want to encourage you guys, if you find some way to read David Mazzucchelli's intro to that artist edition. It's just a fascinating insight into like
Yes.
his recollection of his time on the book, which we don't have a ton of like interviews with him out there. Or, you know what I mean? He's kind of like a mythic, mysterious figure. So definitely recommend that. Anyway,
And that's kind of one of the craziest things too, right? Is that Mazzucchelli here's the thing, like, he has arguably some of the most sought after artist edition copies of comic book runs, right? And some of the most heralded superheroic comic book runs with both Daredevil, Born Again, and even his time previous to that when I talked about Denny O'Neil's run. Denny O'Neil is the person who brings David Mazzucchelli onto that book and again, like, lets him get his feet wet and learn the ropes of comic book artwork. But really, it's a short comic book career, especially with superhero comic books coming into the
yeah.
equation. It's really largely Daredevil, Batman. He goes off and starts doing his own indie work where he does parts of the New York trilogy. He does his Rubber Blankets storylines that evolve into Asterios Polyp. And then from there, he just kind of like he walks into the cornfield like at the end of freaking Field of Dreams, man, and the rest is history. Like, I mean, he's just gone, but at
He
least
is.
from our own eyesight and our viewership. However, he did do a large portion of teaching in New York City. He was an art teacher there, kind of bringing up the next level, the next group of people that were going to be taking on the comic medium. There are a couple, not necessarily interviews, but he does lectures with students at some of the schools that kind of call him in. And I got to say, learning about comic books, listening to David Mazzucchelli and how he
Oh
approaches it
man, I
from
gotta track these
the
down, bro.
oh, dude, they're fantastic. I'll shoot you some links here. There's a couple specific that really stand out in a big bad way, but I mean every aspect of it, from the way that the narration comes through, how to lay out a page, how the lettering impacts everything. It's really like the dude is just so incredibly smart with his approach, and he learned so much doing these few books and changed the game so much in what he did with these few books that it's impossible to not like talk about him in the way that we're talking about him right now, which is like he's revered, right? David
Yeah.
Mazzucchelli, one of the
Do you
greatest comic
know
book artists.
what was his background before coming into the game? Was he like doing graphic design work or like drawing advertisements or something for somebody?
I don't even think so. I think he was a young buck. You were talking
Okay.
about the early, I'm sorry, the forward in the artist edition of year one. He has another one in the beginning of Born Again as well, and he talks about his time on that book pre Born Again because again he was
Mhm.
working with Denny O'Neil, and he was young. He was just like I mean, he was getting his feet wet in the industry. So I'm sure he had some work under his belt, but the level of work, I don't think it was a whole wide swath of stuff.
I just
I know it's like
somebody
how.
said well, my question is this. After doing Born Again in year 1, you gotta be highly sought after, right? And,
Mhm.
granted, you've had success with these books, but we don't for to my knowledge, it's just kind of like a barren landscape after that. How does he support himself? What is he doing? Is he drawn? You know what I mean? Because I don't is he just did he go back to teaching? What happened? Why?
Let me
I
let me ask you this. How many copies of year 1 do you have? Like, in different formats?
so I got all the single issues, I got a couple trades, and I got the artist edition. Okay, I
Mhm.
see your point, but I'm
How does
saying,
one support
like,
himself?
but like, dude, do you think like year 1 has been enough to live on like every single year? I mean, granted, it is what it is now, and I think now it's no problem. But like, it took a minute to get there. I think, and the
Yeah.
the middle of the '90s, I don't think people were buying up. You know what I mean? I don't know. Am I wrong?
Yeah. Well, an
It's
important
just
thing to
weird
remember,
for
though,
somebody.
is that it's a team.
Yeah, very true, very true. But for somebody just so talented, it's just kind of crazy that like I just want to know why. I don't know why didn't he want to draw more. Is basically like I'm not mad that he walked away. I think it's an incredible legacy, but I'm just curious why he didn't want to draw at least a couple more books. I mean, I'm not saying he had to be on something every month, but like a couple more, like limited formats. I'm sure Frank would have worked with him again, or whatever. I don't know.
Oh
I'm
God, are
just
you kidding me? Yeah,
curious.
I'm sure that they would be clamoring to, or Frank would feel very good about working with him again. I would have to assume. Granted, I don't
Yeah,
know, but I mean, come on, I have to assume that. But yeah, I mean, but the thing is, from what I understand, and I can't remember which one it was. It was the forward in one of those two artist editions, but he talks about that a little bit, and he talks about the fact that I'd done everything that I wanted to do in the superheroic comic medium, right? And it was
right.
like I knew in my heart of heart it was time to walk away from that and explore my own ideas, and that's what he does in Rubber Blankets, and arguably his even larger masterpiece, even more so than Batman and Daredevil, which is Asterios Polyp. I mean, I encourage everyone out
Yeah,
here,
you
granted, we're
put
talking
me
about
onto that one.
1986. Yeah, like everyone needs to read that. It is so it's it's such a nihilistic look at the life and choices that people can live and go through. But it's a little well, maybe it's more than a little absurdist in its approach too. It's such a different look at the Mazzucchelli that we know from the superhero realm. He really stretches himself and really tries a lot of new and different things that I think work out wonderfully. But if you go in thinking you're going to get born again or year one, like your expectations are going to be
Yeah,
like swiftly kicked in the nuts because that's not what you're getting whatsoever. We do have Sleepy here saying that Mazzucchelli draws for the New Yorker and the like.
that's awesome.
Clue us in. Is that like still? Is that currently, or was that like at the time or after his superheroic run? Because I would get a subscription to the New Yorker. You'd watch me do it. Let's see here. We got Bob saying, I got 4 versions of year one. Yeah, dude. I've got the floppies, I've got the trade, I've got the absolute, I've got the artist edition, and I've got one more that I'll show off here when we talk about one of our next books here as well. The one another thing that I wanted to go over were some notable things that still happened in 1986 outside of the books that we're talking about, but it's again speaking towards the maturation of the comic book medium, and even if not maturation, it's the comic industry trying to do new things and really push forward something different. The first thing that comes to mind though is that Dark Horse Comics actually kicks off in proper in 1986. Now we don't get the Dark Horse that like kind of like we look back at yet, but it is the jumping off point. And again, it's kind of the industry starting to understand that there is something new here and there's a new readership that we need to start pursuing outside of the superheroic comics. But staying inside of superhero comics, we have Malibu Comics that starts they kind of kick off in an official way as well. We would not have Image Comics if it weren't for Malibu Comics and everything that happens with Malibu Comics and some of the relationships that are founded there as well. So while not more mature, still absolutely vital. And Sleepy had called it out here. Hold on, let me see if I can find the comments. How such advanced comics were coming out in the middle of a flood of weak books at the time, like New Universe books. Well, New Universe did kick off at that time as well here, largely pushed forward by Jim Shooter, who wanted a new avenue to explore within Marvel Universe, but Marvel Universe adjacent here. But again, it goes to show they wanted to try big and bold things. They wanted to do things that are really exciting and really fresh and really something that is different than the status quo that we've been delivered over the years. This is kind of the changing of ages, right? The gold and silver, bronze, copper, so on and so forth. This was definitely a changing of the age at the time. When it comes to the next book I want to shout out here, it's impossible. I can't not bring this book up here, even though it's so obvious. Like we've talked about a lot of Miller, and I'm sure we'll circle back around here, but like Watchmen, right? Like, I mean, I know that it is kind of like it's kind of the staple. It is the book that people look to and they say Like this shows exactly why comic books needed to change and why they're so impactful and everything you could do with the medium, even with, you know, like the superhero genre, the things that Moore is able to do with this storyline and really show all of the, I don't know, the nuance of these characters. And again, like looking at some of the very adult themes that take place in this, the political corruption, the choices that people need to make, the gosh, I mean, the uneasy like ending that we get in this book, right? The decision that needs to be made for the betterment of society, even though we know that what that means is, you know, it's like, do the ends justify the means, right? The ideas that Moore is able to play with in this are just still groundbreaking to this day. I think that Moore's influence with Watchmen in particular, we already know that it's still felt in such a heavy, heavy way. We've seen Jeff Johns really, you know, in the last decade, really kind of play with those ideas in a big bad way and show just how influenced he was on that. But it's not always as on the nose as Jeff Johns has been. Like, I mean, we see every single time that you see a storyline where it talks about a superhero team or superheroes being pushed to their limits and making choices that are unsavory and really having a gray area as opposed to the line in the sand that the superheroes normally draw. This is the reason. Without books like this, we would not be able to see something like that unless something of equal gravity came out, which I just can't, I frankly cannot see anything except for Watchmen being the book that actually does that.
Plus, dude, are we not gonna, come on, man, you're missing the opportunity to do a little brand, what do we got here on both pages?
I'm losing count here. Is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8?
I think it's
That's a
around
9-panel
9.
grid, my
I think
friend.
it's around, yeah, 9 panels.
Yes.
But yeah, the mastery of the 9-panel grid, right?
Yes, exactly. Which also goes to show that it was a love letter to the comic medium as well
Yes.
as a forced evolution of the comic book medium. It wasn't looking down on it and saying that it was anything less than what it was, and that's why we need to change it. It was saying, no, this is how great what we have can be. Now take my hand and let me show you. That's
Well
the
said,
wonder
bro.
that is Watchmen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What is your background with Watchmen? When did you read it? And why is it the worst recommendation for people that are just trying to get into comics?
Yeah, don't like think it's way overhyped in that sense, right? I think it's one I didn't come back to until this was like one of those books I discovered when I came back to it, the hobby during COVID, and hadn't read it before that. I still think it's there's a lot of things going on with it. It's not my favorite Moore work. I get what it means to the genre and everything like that, but I honestly think the things he did in Swamp Thing are more profound and more moving and connect
Oh
with
yeah.
me in a more personal way. And I think, um, all the things that he does in that run, I think he did, just as well, if not better, than he does here in the Watchmen. So, but it's a different beast entirely. I think it's also, I think it's had legs and in terms of like the kind of like bland dystopian type of future that it painted. I think in that way it connected. But it's yeah, man, I don't know. It's the beast that keeps on going. It seems like it has endless energy when it comes to reprints and stuff like that. It did get adapted in that HBO series, which was super dope. I don't know if you saw that.
I
Did
think
you check
yes,
that? That was
that was
incredible.
amazing. Yes, it was so much. I don't want to poo poo on the movie, but I think the movie could have been better. The show was
No, but I
almost
think the movie
perfect.
was also like at certain points, like for a good portion of it, it was a great, accurate, representation of what was going on in the comics. I think that's what it wanted to be. But yeah, I agree with you there. I think especially particularly in the second part of it, it could have gotten, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I think that HBO series is not talked about enough, and I think that's one of the best adaptations of the property. But for me, this has always been like that one that everybody points to and everybody talks about, but has always been like kind of on the periphery for me as far as like how much I've enjoyed it and how much I'd talk about it slash recommend it. Like there's a lot of more books I'd recommend in front of this one.
Okay. All right. I can appreciate that. I think that, well, I think particularly in what he does for superheroes, I think that this is arguably his most important
Yes.
piece of work. Is it
Well,
my
yeah.
favorite or
Well
or
said.
most
I agree with
important
that.
more work? Maybe not. That I would agree with that. But the ideas that he plays with, the world that he builds out here, and these archetypes, for those who don't know, they were basically originally supposed to be the Charlton characters that DC had recently purchased and put into that, but they decided that they wanted to go a different route and change that up. But these are very archetypal characters. I mean, even if you don't know what you're getting into, you could very easily say, oh, that's your Batman character. Oh, that's your Superman character. Oh, that's the Question. There's, Hawk Girl and blah, 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 and all those kind of different things. So it's very easy to put those titles or kind of like understand who these character archetypes are going to be, but then seeing them in this way, it just, again, groundbreaking. We don't get some of the current age stories that we get without them being able to deliver those kind of ideas the way that Moore so beautifully does here. But that's got to be one of the next hallmarks that I have here. Stu, what you got next, man?
Oh man. Without further ado, folks, let's get to the
I was gonna say,
chicken.
I know you got, there it is. You're on
Dark
a
Knight
Miller kick tonight, man.
motherfucking returns. Dude, if we're talking about 1986, who are we talking about, bro? He dominates
We're
the
talking about
year.
Moore and Miller.
But
Yes.
does Moore is there, but does he compare to Miller really? No. I feel like he like in terms of volume and
Dude,
creative output.
you're not going to get an argument out of me, man. Yeah, I'm loving this.
Um Dark Knight Returns, right? I mean, I don't even know how to approach this one. Um I think made Batman cool again. Even though it's the old grizzled version of it. My favorite book of Frank Miller's artwork. Not only in like the grizzled gritty bats here, but like
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
yeah, dude, I love Frank's work in this one. His Superman, even before the fight, like just him in the sky, like the way he does his shadows in this one, the way we get like the full on the Batman scenes, whether he's flying in or he's got the rifle or on horseback. My God. But just I think this one because what he had done in Daredevil was essentially the same thing in a lot of ways of deconstructing and you know uh, a reimagining of the character in ways that felt um, grounded and pulpy and noir tinge and obsessed with like crime and corruption. But here he's got Batman, and I think he's on a bigger stage, and he just connects in every way. And I think when you hear so many artists of today talk about like the book that really set them on the path, so many of them mention this one, and there's so many kids from my generation who's like entry into comic books um, was this book, or if you ask them about comics they loved, I have a friend who I was talking with the other week, and we were talking about comics. He doesn't really read them anymore, but he was like, man, he was like, he was trying to get recommendations on, he wanted to reconnect with the genre. He's like, I read this
Yeah.
incredible Batman book back in the day. He was like older, but it was like super punk. I was like, dude, Dark Knight
Dark
Returns.
Knight Returns.
Yes, man. So like, he's gonna reorder that and reread it. And that's just a awesome experience for him. But yeah, it's one of the books I think I first remember reading as a kid and being like, man, this is something else. This is special. And I think when I think about books from that era that really represented the genre growing up and becoming an adult art form, and like and I guess conjunction with like being a kid and you're kind of recognizing that or attaching myself to a book. It's always been Dark Knight Returns. So yeah, man, I don't know. This one is legendary on so many levels to me, both like personally, but obviously historically. And I think this is one that like stands next to Watchmen, shoulder to shoulder, um, and announces itself. And I think both these guys were doing groundbreaking things before we got here. But regardless, like these two are their magnum opuses, and I think it's just so dope and such a beautiful case of like creative confluence that all these things are happening and at the same time and in the same year. So yeah, it's incredible to look back on now, but this is the one. This is the one for me.
Dude, like page 1, right? Page 1 of The Dark Knight Returns. I can't not just read it, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and read a passage from this. The engine. Okay, so let me set the stage actually. So
Yes.
Bruce later in life is he's basically at a NASCAR race, we'll say, right? Right? And he owns the car that's being driven. So being this adrenaline junkie post Batman version of himself, he needs to get his thrill, he needs to get his kicks, he needs to find something to get it flowing again, right? To kind of give his life meaning. So he decides, oh, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and drive this car, being a thrill seeker, just trying to get some kind of jolt of livelihood in himself that is going to somehow fit the bill of being Batman. So he's in the car and he says, the engine, angry, argues the point with me. The finish line is close. It roars, too close. The left front tire decides to turn all on its own. I laugh at it and jerk it, steering the wheel to the right. The nose digs up a chunk of the Matacum. I look at it, then straight into the eye of the sun. This would be a good death. Like, how badass is that, dude?
So amazing, dude.
Oh my god.
And like how the way in that first act, how he reluctantly decides to put the cape and the cowl back on.
Well, and
It's
that's
like,
the very next line. So that this would be a good death, but not good enough. Like, that just goes to show the quality of this book. How okay, here's the insane part of everything that we've talked about. Frank Miller, in 1 year, writes the definitive origin story for a character that is used from there on out. That is, like, without a shadow of a doubt, the thing that people cite and look to for the origin of this character. And in the same year, writes the definitive end cap, the story to end all stories for this character as well. In the same year, we get year 1 and The Dark Knight Returns. That is mind blowing. That is insanity. Like, I don't know how he gets away with doing that, and I don't know how he comes up with the idea of doing that, and to have it
yeah.
work out so brilliantly. Like, I mean, like,
No, it's because Dark Knight Returns feels in line with like where his creative trajectory and where he's going, like artistically from Daredevil to Sin City into that makes sense to me. You know what I
yes.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
But year 1 is a completely different turn, and also you have to think like because like when did it had to be two separate periods of like fermentation, as it were, in his brain as far as like what when he was coming up with what, because the ideas are so separate and like two totally different things. Like, yeah,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
curious as to like that creative calendar and how that all worked out.
Well, and then again, think about the other books that we were talking about at that same exact time. Now, some of it obviously must have been, in the pipeline and being worked
Right.
on prior to this, but still, like the amount of work that he is putting out during this time that is still character defining and genre defining is just it's insane. But I also can't go without showing off this page here as well, which is not a page you're going to think of. Look at this. Look at his rendition of
Yo, that's what
Clark
I'm
Kent.
saying. I love it,
Romance
man.
novel Clark Kent, dude.
Yes, and like
Oh,
like the little tuft of hair, and like the way he plays with his shadow when he's in the air, man. The way he like looks when he's flying in this book is freaking gorgeous.
it's
Um,
insanity. I like the look of this book. Oh, by the way, since we're showing off what we got here,
Also
this
issue 2, like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so this is the hardcover version that I got because I'm too lazy to go get my floppies here. This actually collects, at the time, what would have been the Frank Miller Batman collection. So we got Year One, we got The Dark Knight Returns, and Wanted, Santa Claus Dead or Alive, the one-shot Christmas story that Frank Miller does here for the Bat. So, yeah, good stuff right here. And
I gotta get that Santa Claus story. I've never heard of that.
oh, okay, we're up. Maybe that's a future episode. So keep your eyes open for the best Christmas stories.
Oh yeah, we got to do some Christmas comics. I love it. Yeah,
heck yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about the level of influence and the output of work that he had at that time. Like, to come up with that many ideas that early in your career, mind blowing stuff.
Unreal. Such a like you said, such a mind-blowing run. I mean, it truly is incredible. Like I said, dude, 4 White Hot Scorchers, Elektra Assassin, Daredevil Born Again, Batman Year One, and The Dark Knight Returns, all in 1986 at some point in time.
Yes, exactly. Something that I at least want to touch on. Granted, I can't speak to it all that well because I'm really kind of beginning my journey with it. In 1986, one of the awards in regard to comic books at that time was the award. G Black White Comic Series was one of the categories that was coming out. Kind of like say comic at the time. The winner of comic Love and Rockets. It's been published the last couple of years, but mid 80s is really the.
Hey, bro, your internet. I think your internet is.
Am I back?
Yeah, kind of. I can hear you, but I can't see you. But while E gets that figured out, let me
Maybe
go
not.
to the chat.
Am I still frozen?
I can hear you, but I can't see you, bro. You're still frozen. Real quick, get to the chat real quick. Bob says, Dark Knight was the first time I bought multiple copies. Wanted to read at least one that went straight into the plastic bag. Hell yeah, bro. I think I might be the same on that, besides like some X-Men promotions or something like that. Where it says Watchmen was written for adults at a time when most superhero comic readership were still kids and teens. Yeah, truly kind of revolutionary with the way the whole industry kind of changed right there. Kind of a tidal wave of different books. First time I bought those heavy Mylar sleeves was from Dark Knight issues 2 Star Wars. That's awesome, guys. I love that. Man, we're getting old, bro. It is going to be 40 years ago. That's so true. I think about that all the time with the 80s and the 90s. How it really doesn't seem like that far away to me, but it's a century and a half, right? Oh yeah, worst investment ever. That's awesome, guys. Well, hopefully, E, did we get things worked out, bro? Are we back? No, it looks like he's still trying to figure it out, folks. All right, so guys, I think we covered most of our books for 86. I know we had a couple honorable mentions we were going to get to that Ian had discussed before the show. John Byrne's Superman Man of Steel, of course, was incredible run for the character. Byrne leaving Marvel, going to DC was huge. Yeah, and that one remains like one of the most lauded and talked about Superman stories of its time. So that one we want to mention, and also George Perez's Wonder Woman. The whole Trinity really got a reboot there in '86 across the board with Superman, Bats, and Wonder Woman. And George's run on the character is also one of the best that we've ever gotten. So we definitely wanted to recommend those. Let's see. We're still hanging out backstage, but I think he is trying to make it work. But I'll give it another minute, and then if he doesn't show back up, I think we'll probably get out of here for the night, because I think we covered most of the books that we wanted to. Oh, I see Bob with a book I wanted to mention, man. Punisher, bro. Absolutely. Punisher breaks away, gets his first miniseries. Those timeless Mike Zeck covers. What's better than a Mike Zeck cover, guys? Absolutely incredible run there. I have that series somewhere over there. I think, what is it, like 4 or 5 issues? But man, some incredible work by Mike there. Um, yeah, just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Mike and his incredible cover work and interior work. We're talking books like Secret Words. Yeah, absolutely, dude. That was the one that really like kind of set him on his own path, right? 5 issues. Oh yeah, so, good stuff. Um, but yeah, that one we definitely wanted to mention. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything else. If there's anything else from '86 that you guys wanted to talk about that we haven't covered, let me know. But let me see if my boy's back. E, we back yet, bro? Oh, how we doing? Dang. All right. Well, I don't want to call it just yet. I feel bad, but I don't know if his internet's going to get back on board. Um, Zero says Larry's Library on YouTube does a series of videos on his favorite comics from each year of the '80s. They're fun reminders. Absolutely. Oh, yeah, man. Mike's the beast, dude. Mike's Secret Wars cover for Doom is like just one of my all times. Hey, man, you can't help that internet. When that internet goes sideways on you, you be out here, out here alone. So I know how it goes with those technical difficulties. Sometimes you can't help it, but man, I think we covered it for '86, guys. We did all the bangers: Watchmen, Electra Assassins, Dark Knight Returns, Batman Year One, Daredevil Born Again. It was just such an amazing year for comic books. Um, and we appreciate y'all coming through and joining us for a celebration of the year that really turned the industry around, helped us grow up, helped us make us feel okay about investing in these childlike wonders and these characters that we fell in love with as kids, and giving us stories that we can hold on to this day and really consider true works of art. And the industry hasn't been the same since. It's encouraging to see like so many of y'all have so many great recommendations and see how impactful this year was on you guys also. And how many books of these you have in your own collections. I think for me, really before this point, it's few and far between, and I don't have a great interest, as great an interest in comics pre 1986 as I do post 1986. So appreciate y'all for coming through. Sorry, my boy E couldn't come through. He just messaged me. I don't think that internet's coming back, y'all. But come through tomorrow, Dr. Doom's Fan Club, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. We will be reviewing our new comics of the week. We're going to talk about Fraction's new Batman #1, Everything Dead and Dying #1 from Tate Bromball and Jacob Phillips. Great little #1 there, and I forgot our third book. Oh, Resurrection Man, the incredible finale from Ron V and Anand RK. We're also going to be going through the DCKO bracket, guys. It got released. We got our lineup of fights. I can't wait to talk with E about our favorite matchups and who we think is going to come out on top, and that tourney for King Omega status in the DC universe. So, well, you fucker. I did my whole goodbye speech. I prepped everybody on tomorrow night's show.
Well, that's great. Thank you for doing
What
all
do
the
you have
heavy
to
lifting while my internet decides to take a crap.
It's all
Jesus.
good, man. It's all good. I know how that goes. Anyway, I basically did the wrap up, dude. I talked about Perez's Wonder Woman and Burns' Man of Steel. Is there anything else you wanted to mention about '86 before we got out of here?
Yeah, before my internet decided to throw me for a loop here, just wanted to shout out Love and Rockets. I'm starting to dive into that and really kind of get an understanding of that the influence that had on the comic book industry. But it got a big shout out in 1986. Same thing with TMNT was already in existence, but like the black and white comic boom really starts to happen during that time. And then Mouse, right? Art Spiegelman, right? His harrowing book about about the Holocaust through the eyes of these anthropomorphic creatures, right? The mice. So make sure to check those out if you haven't already. But I think we covered a lot of good books tonight. Apologies for the little snafu there, but Stu, thank you for holding down the fort here while I was away.
Absolutely, dude. I just want to shout out the chat. Everybody came through: Rooster, Zero, Bob, Gore, Damien, Sleepy Reader. Who else am I missing? Simpleton, Omega was in the building. Eddie, you guys just are here every week, week after week, day after Tuesday and Wednesday, being a part of these conversations and dropping fantastic insights. And I love, like, when we hop on this thing and we come out of the countdown and we already got 4 people in the chat before we've even started, and we got the homies in the building. So really appreciate y'all coming through. And if you got folks that you think would be into what we do and would be a dope addition to the community, tell them to come check us out, man. Or if you see new folks in the chat, welcome them in. But we appreciate y'all and this little community that we're building here. So thank y'all for taking the time and chilling with us every Tuesday and Wednesday night. But if you got anything else you want to say before we get out of here, bro?
No, thanks all for hanging with us here. Catch us on Dr. Doom's Fan Club tomorrow for Ink and Insights Proper, where we're going to be going over some really tasty books, and I'm excited.
Yeah, man. It's going to be a great night. We'll see y'all tomorrow, y'all. Peace.